Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight we are having yet another in our Frank Zappa series. Tonight's victim is Over-nite Sensation from 1973. BM Boldt is back. We are ready to talk. Let's get this
Talking
started.
bands no one talks about. Grant's Rock Warehouse.
Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight BM Boldt is back. We are doing our Zappa series. We are doing yet another episode. How many episodes have we done? I have no freaking idea. But we're back, and we're going to look at the mothers. Over-nite Sensation, 1973. And, you know, you've watched all the other shows, I hope. Thank you, Byron, for the prop. We need props. I tried to look for my prop. Damn it, I couldn't find it. Now, wait a minute, what's that? What version is that? I know, but that's
That's the original vinyl. So this is the twofer.
I don't have the. Oh, yeah. Okay.
And this is the reissue of just Over-nite Sensation. So
I think what I've got's just that reissue. I don't have the twofer.
you don't want the twofer. I'll get into all that.
All right, we'll talk about it. Anyway, just to give you a brief background, I was a pure Mothers of Invention fan up until Uncle Meat. And then after that, I really didn't pay much attention. So a lot of these records that Byron and I are looking at, I'm buying them, I'm listening to them, and I'm really taken by this record. But we're going to get into it. I'm going to let Byron start us off. Dang, Byron, what's your thoughts on this record?
Oh, to be honest, this is probably my favorite period of Zappa. Between here and One Size Fits All.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give it a good score.
Oh, I'm going to give this a great score.
So anyway, but yeah, I think Frank really hit the sweet spot in this period. Musically, the band is real tight.
Mm-hmm.
Better musicianship for the most part than what he had in the early Mothers. The songs can be a little bit risque, not nearly as bad as with Flo and Eddie. But the songs are accessible too in this period. They're very accessible. So it's just, I think, his sweet spot. He's rocking. But he's also got this jazz stuff kind of going on, and his wit and his humor. It all just comes together at this time.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But I mean, the band, if we're looking at Ian Underwood's still in the band. We do have a special appearance by Tina Turner and the Ikettes.
Yeah. They're almost like the secret weapon on this album.
Yeah. But George Duke's playing electric piano, Tom Fowler bass guitar, Ruth Underwood's making an appearance, Ralph Humphrey on drums, which I do like what he's doing here.
Yeah, his drumming on here is exceptional.
Frank's doing the lead vocals and he's doing the lead guitar.
Yep. John Lupanti's on it.
Yeah, I wish
Sal Marquez.
I really like to be able to do one of these shows and, have some kind of complaint about something, but I really don't have anything about this record to complain about. But yeah, John Lupanti, it's a great record. Frank, the band, the production. I wish I could bitch about it.
It was released September 17th, 1973. It was recorded from March 19th to June 1st of 73. The 12th Mothers of Invention album, 17th overall. And once again, I'm going to say, well, what makes a Mothers of Invention album? Is one album, it's the same people, and it's not a Mothers album, and the next album, it's the Mothers, and I don't know, whatever.
I don't think it's not the original Mothers. That was the Mothers. That's what I really liked. But damn, it's right up there, ladies and gentlemen, right up there.
So this was the first album, I think, on Discreet Records too, which was the offshoot of Bizarre Straight. They kind of folded that and went with Discreet. Ted Nugent and Amboy Dukes were on there. I think Call the Wild and Tooth Fame were also on that label.
Both good records.
Yeah.
I like
the cover is by a guy named David McMacken. It's got kind of the Salvador Dali feel to it, in my opinion. There's a lot going on that cover. It's really cool. It's something to just, there's a lot to look at while you're listening to it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, this came out in quad back in 73. They say that, if you're going to own this, you should own the the original vinyl or get the 2012 CD because of the whole reverb situation once again. This is the twofer, which is fine. It's just an apostrophe, but it's missing a ton of artwork. So I'm trying to go with the separate ones to get all the individual artwork. I got the vinyl back here as well. But,
You're saying that original Ryko, they had Frank added reverb to it? Did he?
He did for almost every one of the original Rykos.
I don't know why, because when I play it, I think this album sounds wonderful.
You might want to compare it to a vinyl release of it or the 2012 just to see. I've never really sat A-B.
I don't. What do I have? I don't know. I tried to find it. I've got it on my computer. You know, I've ripped it, and I'm in the process of reorganizing everything. Oh my God. Do you ever have to
You'll
do
never
that?
get that done. You'll never get all that done.
I don't know if I'll ever get it done, but now I went to find it for a prop and I can't find it because I'm amidst a mess.
You need to get it together, man.
I know. I'm a mess. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. In the last couple of years, they put out, I think it was last year, they put out a 50th anniversary 4 CD set. We're not going to talk about that because we're not doing those till 5 years from now when we get to them.
If I'm alive.
Yeah. This got to 32 on Billboard charts and it went gold in 76. I think this was the best selling album he'd have in his career up until that point.
I believe so, because I do believe it went, well, I think at least went gold.
Yeah,
at least
went gold. I think Apostrophe did probably just as well. So anyway, some of the songs on here are about sex, you know, which is typical for Frank at this period. But it's not as over the top as the Flo and Eddie period. And I feel like part of the problem with the Flo and Eddie period is a lot of that was live. And when those two guys were live, it was just, they just had the green light to just go crazy, it seems like. Where with the Chunka's Revenge, that wasn't live, and I thought that they were a little more restrained on that album, which I think made it better. Yeah, so like I was saying, the songs on here are very accessible, and it's kind of a rock, jazz, pop combination, and Frank is doing most of the singing, like you had mentioned. A little less...
Which is different.
Yeah, right. Because usually he would do some singing, but not the majority. His solos are a little less involved. They're less long at times. His solos are more, he just kind of cranks them out.
Well, yeah. I think there's a lot. I know what you're saying, but it seems like
a little more condensed.
And I think they're a lot more thought out.
Yeah.
This whole record, I think, is much more thought out. Because a lot, most of these are just all songs. They're not jams or anything.
Yeah, there's no jams.
They're just a bunch of great songs. So it kind of is more like that. We're only in it for the money. Kind of harkens back, even though we're, none of the songs back in the original Mothers you'd look at and go, well, that's just kind of childish. I mean, we have some of that here. It's not, like you said, it's not like the Flo and Eddie stuff. But yeah, these are just songs.
Yeah, I think that this album is kind of a blueprint for the rest of his career as far as his rock stuff goes. And one other thing about the solos here is I think there's probably the most aggressive and fastest type of playing he has in his discography. He's really cutting loose on some solos on this album.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But it's just, I just don't hear him as he's flying by the seat of his pants kind of thing. This is a fully realized record. And this, Byron, is what I've been waiting for. Instead of these records that we were talking about that just seem kind of be, oh, well, we'll pull something from here, pull something from here. This is a fully realized record like we once had back in the 60s. You see what I mean? This is what I like. This is why I listen to this and I'm just going, hallelujah. And I appreciate the other stuff, but this is on a different level. So anyway, go ahead. We're just talking, folks. So,
You mentioned most everybody on the record, but there was a couple other singers on here. Ricky Lancelotti, who we'll mention, and Kin Vassie or Vassie. He did a little singing as well. But I'll bring some of
that. Yeah, it might be Vassie. I don't know. Yeah.
I had never really heard of him prior
I don't know anything about
Other than
it.
this album, I really had never heard of him. Same with Ricky Lancelotti for the most part.
Hmm.
But anyway, I digress.
No.
So we'll go over some of the songs now. I've
Hmm.
got some
Go
notes.
ahead.
Okay. So the first song, Camarillo Brillo.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's starts out with this nice little guitar riff. Um, and it's got some real catchy verses and choruses. And uh, throughout this album, you're going to notice the horns.
Hmm.
Not like the previous two albums, which were these jazz albums, but there's just a lot of horns that are playing like licks or
Hmm.
here and
Well,
there, and
it's
and
more
and, and
like
they
it's more like Chicago or Blood, Sweat, and
yeah,
Tears.
yeah.
They kind of act. They kind of enhance the track.
Right. And what you'll notice is they're the horns and the vibes and the keyboard and sometimes the guitar. They're playing these crazy little runs here and there, and some of them have nothing to really do with the song. But they work. He just throws in all these little runs,
Hmm.
and it makes the song so much more interesting in my
It's a great listen on headphones. Let me say that.
opinion. Yeah,
It's a very well there, and it's like when you listen to it, it always seems to open up something else that you might have missed. There's a lot of surprises, a lot of things for you to enjoy on these tracks, and I'm going to throw this out to you. When I listen to it, how would you classify this compared to his other stuff? Because we had a lot of jazz before. I guess there's kind of jazz leanings here, but it's got more pop. I really don't know
yeah.
how to even classify it, Byron. I have no idea.
I want to say the song structures are more of a pop and rock,
Hmm.
but with these little jazz fills and solos here and there. Like you say, kind of the blood, sweat, and tears type thing in Chicago. But anyway, so the Camarillo Brillo track, it's my understanding that it's a reference to the girl's hair. She had a Camarillo Brillo. So I think it was kind of like
I
like
don't
a
know.
permanent or
Right.
something, a fro type hair. But the song is basically about meeting a free spirited girl and taking her back to her place for sex.
Well, that's a
Well, I
different.
mean, the song is not maybe it might not be an autobiographical song. He's just making up stuff.
I know,
Um,
but you know what? You did mention the thing about quad. This was mixed for quad. I can see totally this being mixed for quad. As you mentioned, all those instrumental interludes, the horns on this track. God,
yeah,
that would sound
uh,
wonderful.
I've got a quad preamp here, but I don't have anything else to go with quad. But I would imagine there's a 5.1 version of this
I
on
don't know.
that
Maybe.
box set, and I could probably listen to it that way through my home theater system. But funny that you mentioned that because there's a lot of 70s references in this Cameron Bro song where he says, uh, she said her stereo was four-way,
Mhm.
and then he talks about ponchos and incense
Is it
and
from Sears? Is it a Mexican
yeah,
punch or is
my
it
wife
Sears poncho?
I introduced this to my wife and she kind of cracks up and I'll say things that are like, is that a real poncho or is that a Sears poncho? She was kind of the poncho thing was before her time, to be honest with you. Because I remember when that was big when I was a
Well, I
kid.
remember when I was a kid, it was cool to have a poncho
Yeah,
or one of those yellow rain poncho things.
yeah.
Remember those?
Walking to school in those and stuff.
I never had one.
Rain boots
My
and a little
parents,
yellow hat.
I didn't have that. I didn't go. I knew kids that had it, and
I never had one either.
I had poncho envy.
Yeah.
Still
Um,
have it. Still have it.
he also in the track mentions the toads of the short forest, newts, and dwarfs, which those have been. There was a song "Toads of the Short Forest," I think, on like was it Burnt Weenie or something like that, and he likes to mention newts and dwarfs. There are newts in 200
They're fun.
Motel.
They're fun.
Yeah. So yeah, I really think that Camarillo Brillo is a great track. The next track is "I'm the Slime." Um, the intro is just like a heavy jam over a chord. They're just kind of strumming this chord and it's real heavy and it's guitar jamming over that. But then it busts into that riff.
Hmm.
Da, 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 da. Man, that's a great riff. And
Oh, it's phenomenal.
yeah, and that's basically guitar and horns simultaneously playing that, and then it gets into the verse where Frank's kind of singing this creepy hushed voice, and he's telling a riddle about who is he. You're supposed to guess who he is. Really he's describing crap that he has to watch on television. But then all of a sudden, the Ikettes come busting out with the chorus, "I am the slime video," and it's got this real heavy rock and solo to it on guitar. Frank just really cuts loose. And funny thing about this track was that he also played this a couple years later on Saturday Night Live, and they had Don Pardo doing some of the chorus lines. And Don was also on the Live in New York album, which we'll get to in a few months probably. So yeah, the next song. Oh, and the next song, "Dirty Love." It's "Give Me Your Dirty Love," whatever. But
it must be the single.
It's kind of funky, and
it's funky.
Frank sings it again. It's got another real rock and guitar solo in it, and there's quite a bit of discussion toward the end of it about poodles, which that's just going to get us. He talks a lot about poodles over the next few albums here and there, and then concerts. So I think this was the first time he's ever brought up poodles. So we'll probably be discussing that more in the future.
Who doesn't like poodles?
So then the last song on the first side is 50/50. This is a real fast rocker. But okay, this has got Ricky Lancelotti on, I want to say, manic vocals. I don't think Frank wanted to sing this one because I don't think he quite had the range to sing it. But the vocals on here are pretty crazy. Ricky Lancelotti, apparently he died in 1980. He was like 35 years old.
I was going to ask you what happened to him.
I don't know for sure. And I don't know much about him other than he did that out. He was on this album. He also sang a version of Wino Man, which is on the Lost episodes. And there's a version of For the Young Sophisticate on Lather that he sang on. But yeah, I don't know what he did. Well, no, I did a little research. He did some other things, but he was like on some TV. I think he did vocals for like TV shows and over, voiceovers. I think.
I wonder how he came into the Zappa fold. I don't know.
He's probably. I thought I heard he was kind of a crazy dude. So probably got Frank's attention by being crazy. I don't know.
But this song really wasn't performed live. 73, that's about it a couple times. So I don't know. I guess maybe the crowd didn't like it, or I don't have a problem with the track at all. But maybe
it's got 3 solos in it as well. You got George with an organ solo, then you got a John Luke Ponty violin solo, and then Frank's got another crazy guitar solo. It's a real rocking tune.
Yeah. I'm surprised that live it really didn't take off, but I don't know.
Maybe they couldn't get anybody to sing it with shit. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't think Ricky even toured with them. I think he only did maybe 1 or 2 shows I read.
Maybe you couldn't get anybody that could replace Ricky.
So that's the end of side 1.
Good track.
So on the first song on side 2 is Zombie Wolf. Okay, I'm going to come right out and say this. And I don't know.
Don't hold
I don't know
back.
if I've always felt this way, but after listening to this a few more times, I think this is my favorite song on the album.
All right.
I love it because it's so complex. There's so much shit going on in this song I was talking about all these crazy horn and vibe runs that are just coming out of nowhere. There's a lot of that's going on in this track.
It's another one of those sex songs.
Yeah, you could look at it that way, or is it about a werewolf?
Werewolf having sex? I don't know. Maybe.
But and the verses on this are real heavy, and once again, Frank's got a real good heavy solo on it. You get Frank and the Ikettes doing some of the backing vocals and here and there, and actually, Frank does most of the vocals on this, and then you get the Ikettes. But then Ricky and Lancelotti comes in and like sings like a couple bridge sections with because I don't think Frank could have done those either because his voice is real high on that.
Well, what's really kind of crazy about this track is how they use time signatures because the basis of the song is 4/4, but then they kind of, how do they? I don't even know how they do it, but somehow they make it into a 7/8 type of riff, and then it goes back into 5/4. It's really a crazy listening
It's
experience.
almost it's like it's stop start in some ways, but there's no pauses in between. Really, it's like the 4/4 will abruptly just stop, and then they'll just completely throw in something that's totally deranged.
And you wouldn't think it would work,
No.
but it works.
That's why I'm saying I like this song so much. There's so much complexity to it. I like when he does that kind of stuff, and he did a lot of that with this particular band because they could pull it off.
Now,
Ruth is incredible on the vibes, or whatever you want to call them.
now, have you ever heard Zappa and Steve Vai play this on
Yeah,
Jenny Moore?
I think I have heard. What was it on?
It's on volume 1. You can't do that on stage.
Can't do that on stage. Okay, yeah,
And
yeah.
Frank and Steve are playing off each other. You ever hear that?
I used to own that whole 6 volume set. I don't have it anymore, but it's on my hard drive.
Okay.
But it's been a while since I've listened to it. So yeah,
Mhm.
I have heard it many times, but I just haven't listened to it for quite a while. So yeah,
I like it because I just like the time signature things and how they stretch out in the song. But then again, it's not all that. You would think that this thing would really stretch out, but they only do it for 5 minutes. I do kind of like that everything's concise and they move this album. The album really flows, You think that this would be like an 11, 12-minute song, but no, it's not.
yeah. This and Apostrophe are not the longest albums, but like I said, there's only 7 songs on here too, so it's
Yeah.
going to be fairly short considering the longest songs are about 6.5.
Yeah, I'm happy about that,
It definitely is less than 40 minutes. It's probably about 36 minutes. Anyway, yeah.
What about Diana Moam?
Dynamo Hum.
Just
See, I would
say
have thought this would be one that you don't really go for because this one is probably the closest to Flo and Eddie that we've had, but it doesn't have Flo and Eddie singing on it. So
No, it's pretty explicit.
yes.
Mhm.
So yeah, I made a note here. Grant might not like this one.
I like it. I can take it. I'm all right.
So my notes basically say this could have been a Flo and Eddie period song. You got basically Frank is narrating this story, and it's about a woman. I'm going to call her Dynamo Hum, who bets Frank or the narrator $40 that he can't get her to, we'll say, climax.
That's well put.
So he tries to win the bet, and he's not having any success. But apparently, she's got a sister in the room who's holding the money for the bet, and she's getting excited. So she's like, "Well, if my sister's not going to have fun, I'm going to have fun." So Frank, or the narrator, starts to entertain the sister, and then that excites Dynamo Hum, and she ends up losing the bet. But that's the gist of it in the cleanest way I could tell it. It's kind of a vamp for most of the song, at least for a lot of the narrating parts. But then you have like the Ikettes do a great job on that track where they're singing, "I got a spot that gets me hot, and you ain't been to it." And
yeah, this song's okay. Yeah, it's a little bit too much, but I think the fact that Frank is doing the vocal on, for the most part, I can handle. If Flo and Eddie had this, I don't think I could handle it. The thing is, I mentioned there's so much melody and great songwriting. This is a fine song, don't get me wrong. Not as much melody to this. There really isn't much melody,
on this song, or
Yeah, this song. I don't find it. It's not as catchy as the rest of the record.
The verses are some couldn't say where she's coming from. I just melee named Dynamo Home. That's all really good. But like most of the song, like you say, that is that vamping narrating part. There is no melody.
No, I mean it's fine.
A lot of sound effects going on about mooing and moaning and groaning, but whatever.
I
Uh,
it's fine. It for me, it doesn't take anything away from the record. You expect this from a Frank Zappa album. He's gonna produce something like this for the record, okay? And it just adds a little bit more flavor to the album for me. And I don't have a problem with it. I'm just glad Flo and Eddie aren't on here. Love you, gentlemen. I just don't like them in with Zappa. But I don't have a problem with this album, this record, this particular track at all.
Yeah, we also in this track he brings up for the very first time zircon encrusted tweezers, which gets mentioned in the next song, and I believe in probably some subsequent albums here and there. Um, so
I
yeah,
don't know what that means.
ah,
Zarkon and
zircon encrusted tweezers. I don't know if they're
tweezers.
tweezers. I don't know if they're tweezers that are plated with zircon. If zircon is a real metal, it could be. So yeah, Frank had his conceptual continuity where he would it was kind of like a folklore where he would introduce some topic or maybe an item like a
Mm-hmm.
poodle or zircon encrusted tweezers, and those would come up in later albums and concerts and stuff like that.
Yeah, like Susie Cream Cheese always
Yeah,
popping up
yeah,
on their
she was a
stuff.
conceptual continuity as well, but she's disappeared after the first two or three albums.
I think that would have been great to bring Susie Cream Cheese back. Why not?
Maybe she should have had a guest spot in Dynamo Hum.
But you know what? He kind of abandoned that kind of, where he would have snippets back in the old days and the early mother stuff. We would have little snippets of people having a conversation. He kind of got away from that. I kind of missed that to some degree.
He'll introduce a little bit of that in Lather, Chic Your Booty, but yeah, he doesn't do much.
Not to the extent that he
No.
had on those early records.
Right.
Yeah, I loved all that stuff. So, talking to Susie Cream Cheese and all, it was, come on, perfect albums. I'm just gonna, but here we are. We're in 1973, folks. Sorry, I need to move on.
Right. So that brings us to our last track, Montana.
Fabulous track.
Even my wife knows this one.
What a way, Byron, what a way to end an album.
Yeah. It starts out with that intro with the da 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 with the horns, and it's great. There's just these catchy little horn riffs, but it's not like the whole song's built on it. But it just starts with that, and then you get this great little drum break by Ralph Humphrey. I thought, really good. And the verses and the chorus and the track are actually kind of slow, and Frank sings them, but you get a lot of horns, backing like we discussed, and I almost think that the best part of the song is the Iket's section after the guitar solo. It's got a real good guitar solo, really good. But then they come in with this section, and it's just like insane the things that they're singing in like 3-part harmonies with these typical Zappa. It's like these Zappa runs, which are just crazy, and they're singing them, and Ruth's back there, doubling it with her vibe, and maybe George is doing the same thing with his keyboards, and it's just crazy. And I had read that it took them, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours to get those backing vocals done just for that one song.
I believe it. Oh, I read that I guess throughout the tours, he would constantly change the lyrics and challenge basically the background singers to keep up with him, so to speak. Because I don't know, I guess he would just do rewrites and hopefully they could keep up with him and sing the backgrounds the way, he wanted. I just crazy,
It's a great song. There's so many different parts to it that I like too. Toward the end, it's moving to Montana soon, and then that Ken Vassy, who had mentioned, he said yippee-i-o-tie-a, he keeps singing that, and
yeah, I love the way it ends, the way the vocal interplay is, and yippee-i-a and all that, and I don't know. I think it's a strong ending to the record. What do you think? You think that's a strong ending?
Yeah, it's a great closer. Whenever I hear the word Montana, I sing moving to Montana soon. Gonna be a dental floss tycoon. My wife gets pissed off because she's tired of me saying that. But
So how do you feel about the production, the songs, the sequencing, how they put this record together? What's your overall thoughts on it? Because I already said this is a 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. I'm
and for you.
so happy to have heard this record. I swear to God. And I really, like I said, I have nothing to bitch about. But I'm curious, Byron, because you're much more of a Zappa enthusiast for his whole career more than I am. So, what's your thoughts on where this is in the catalog and sequencing and the whole thing?
Um, you know, it's like you were saying, when you listen to this, there's so much going on. It'd be cool to hear the quad version of it though.
I'd
It's
love to hear that.
there, and there seems to be a lot of stereo separation going on, especially when
Yeah.
the vibes are playing and George is playing something and things are kind of bouncing around. It sounds great. My only real problem with the album is I wish it would have had one or two more songs on it.
So you think it, well, I don't think so. I
Yeah,
think
maybe one more would have been good. One more would have been good.
what is there, you have anything that you would have what would have made this album better? Any idea? Is
Just
there
one more song.
I don't think you need another song. I think we've gotten to the point with music where albums that are now, since the age of CD, they decided, well, we need to take all that extra data. We need to flush these records out, which is bad. I love this as it's short, concise. There's no filler on here. I don't think you need anything. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I think it's
all I'm saying, I wish it was longer. I wish
do
I
you think
just wish there was more.
you've been happy if they stretched some of these songs out more?
No, not really.
All right, so your only real critique is that it could use another song.
I just wish it was. Yeah, I just wish it was one more killer song on here. But hey, it's only 35 minutes. But that's not bad.
35 minutes is perfect.
That's fine.
It's a perfect record.
40. I want 40 minutes of perfection.
Okay. All right. So would you deduct anything because of that?
No. I'm going to give it one minor deduction.
Go ahead.
I just feel like Dynamo Hum, I like it. I do like it. But it's just something about it which detracts a tiny bit for me. So I'm going to go a 9.5.
Really?
9.5.
Okay, let me throw this out there. Do you maybe if the lyrics were rewritten, it's not the music that bothers you with that track. Is it more the lyrical content?
I guess I think part of the problem was the vibe just goes on and on and on that. And it's
Too much. Needs edited. All right. I don't have a problem. Like I said, you're giving it a 9.5. I'm giving this a 10.
I mean, I'm nitpicking here.
Yeah, I don't think, but this is the shape of things to come,
Yeah.
So, what am I going to do? It is what it is. So, well, we got a 10 and a 9.5. So we have a 9.75. I don't know if we've rated anything quite that high together.
I think we both gave only in it for the money 10s.
It's a 10.
Yeah, I mean, I may change my opinion and give this a 10 later. But
I think it's fine. I think that go with what you feel. But I think this is right up there with the rest of those Mothers albums.
Yeah, it's.
Remind me, what'd you give Hot Rats? You gave that a 10, right? Or did you?
9.
A 9. And Uncle Meat, what'd you give Uncle Meat?
8.5.
Okay.
I'm not a huge Uncle Meat fan. I like it.
Well, you could look at it, it's a little long. And this might be a little short, but it doesn't take anything away from it for me. And maybe Dinah could be maybe the lyrical content, maybe it's a little childish. we know that Frank had that issue throughout the rest of his catalog, so it is what it is. But I don't have a problem with it. So, all right, there you go. It was a bit, kind of a loose show, and I wish I had more to add, but I love this record. I don't have anything to pick apart. The only thing I wish to have, you could flesh it out a little bit more. We could have had a little bit more of those interludes, like I mentioned. I like that. Like Susie Cream Cheese on the phone talking to somebody. I like that. Maybe string it together more like that instead of just separate tracks. I kind of like those type of things where everything's all segues together, but it's fine.
Yeah, we'll get a lot of segueing on the next album, at least on the first side.
Mm-hmm.
The next album's pretty good.
Yeah, we'll be hitting that.
But, I mean, I left myself a little breathing room for a 10 in one of these next 2 or 3 albums. We'll see. I don't want to give them all 10s.
Well, you can't give them all 10s. Absolutely free. I had to give that a 10, didn't I?
What if you like Apostrophe better than Over-nite Sensation? This one goes to 11.
But I don't know. I've never heard of Apostrophe.
Yeah,
I think I got it.
You might like that one even better.
I just think this is I just think this is really, really great. That's all. I'm happy. I love it. It is what it is. I could give the other one a 10. But I still think we're only in it for the money is the peak. That's where everything should be based. But shouldn't we be looking at these albums on their individual merit?
Well, I mean, hey, they can all be 10s.
I'm sure there are a lot of Zappa aficionados that probably give them all 10s.
Not all. I'm sure.
Except the Flo and Eddie period, which I despised. Is what it is. So what's the album we're looking at next? Apostrophe?
Yes, Apostrophe.
Yeah, I've got Apostrophe. I've got the two. Yeah. I don't have the 2 for. I've got the 2012.
Oh.
And I've listened to it, but it's been a long time.
It's a good album.
We're gonna.
He was really hitting his stride, I'm telling you.
We'll be tackling that in July. All right, Byron. So we give this a 9.75. So we want to hear from you in the comments down below. What do you think of this record? What's your thoughts on all these tracks? Do you like the sequencing? Do you like the production? We want to hear from you and what you think about Over-nite Sensation from the Mothers of Invention. Or this is just the Mothers, isn't it? It's not really the Mothers.
Yeah, I mean,
we're carrying that flag, but it's really not the Mothers. It's
the Mothers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But anyway, so there you go. Please leave a comment. Please like, subscribe. Let us know how you feel about this record. Byron will be back. We will have more content down the road. And please leave a comment. All right. Mr. Boldt, we will see you on the next one. What's next on the channel? I don't know. Tonight we just threw up Toto, our top 10 tracks from Toto. We'll see how that goes. I had a lot of people in the chat. That was a fun episode. That was with Todd Evans, and it's great. So anyway, tune in for more content, and we will see you on the next one.